It's a positive film. It has heroes and villains, and that it essentially is a fun movie to watch. It's been a long time since people have been able to go to the movies and see a sort of straightforward, wholesome, fun adventure.
Well, it's a fantasy. It's not science fiction so much as it is space fantasy. And it's about people. It's finally about people and not finally about science.
The story, when you actually put it into words, is only so much nonsense to hang a great visual experience onto. It's the stuff that fairy tales are made of.
It's sort of boiling down religion into a very basic concept. The fact that there is some deity or some power or some force that sort of controls our destiny works for good and also works for evil.
Marvellous, healthy innocence. Great pace, wonderful to look at, full of guts, nothing unpleasant. I mean, people go bang bang and people fall over and are dead, but, no horrors. A sort of wonderful freshness about it, kind of like a wonderful fresh air.
It's got whatever you want it to be. It's pure entertainment. It's like a roller coaster ride, and it can be interpreted as long as you enjoy it, which is the intention.
Hello and welcome to Generation Skywalker. I'm Dan Burgess and you're listening to episode 141 of Generation Skywalker and Those Old Fossils Get Hammered. So in this episode we are going to be looking at auction houses, in particular Vectis, C&T and Oberon, each that hold dedicated Star Wars auctions several times a year. For a number of years now, we have seen a concentration of Star Wars themed auctions around May the 4th as auction houses seek to commoditise on and raise the awareness of the franchise around this time. And 2025 has been no different, and in this episode, we're going to look back at 3 major Star Wars auctions held over this period in the UK. And to help me on this episode, I've got Mr. Peter Lee.
Evening, Dan. Evening, Jez. How you doing?
Very well, mate. Very well. Have you been dabbling these last few auctions we've been seeing?
I've certainly tried to dabble. I didn't actually get any dabbling done, but I was tempted by quite a few things, but work sadly got in the way of most of them.
And Jez Allinson's still with us as well.
Hello.
How you doing, Jez? Have you been doing any dabbling?
I have. I've dabbled and I've had success. I'm quite eager to talk about that because we haven't had those old fossils since I got my big purchase. So I'm sure more on that later on. Well, big for me. Big for me.
But before we get into the auctions themselves, let's just have a general discussions about our own experiences with auction houses, both as buyers and as sellers. So firstly to Pete, why do you think we've seen such an increase in popularity in auction houses over the last few years?
I think a lot of publicity, a lot of big auctions. I think people have been drawn to through that. Personally, when I started getting back into collecting around 2015, you had the Craig Stevens Boba Fett going through, and I think that just pulled everyone to Vectis, not only for that. I think there was some incredible stuff going through at that time. You had Palitoy employee sale, and there was that Big Beaches lot. So there was just tons of stuff going through, and it just dragged everyone in. I think everyone you talked to, that period was incredible. So I think that coincided with the sort of the interest in Star Wars growing at that time. And I think we just saw a boom from then. So I think that the auctions went along with that, and sort of collecting in the 90s. Obviously the auctions were there, but not on my radar for collecting Star Wars. So that may have changed slightly in what is actually going through the auction houses now. But they're just fun. I find them quite fun. There's buzz about them. They're quite exciting. They're quite stressful when you kind of see things vanish that you didn't bid on. And they scream at you all the time to bid quicker, and you're like, well, I need some thinking time. And things I've seen stuff go and just think, oh, why didn't I just pull the trigger on that? But I guess that's it. That's the game, isn't it? I think they're good because there are a lot of lots. I think just looking at these auctions, we've probably got like almost 1,500 items, haven't we? Which is pretty incredible across 3 days. So there's a lot going through. So you got stuff going from sort of 10, 15 pounds up to multi-thousands. So I think you've got a real good range of pieces. And I think you see a lot of variety because you've got obviously collectors putting bits in there. You've got probably dealers dropping stuff into there, but there's a lot of private collections that haven't necessarily come to market or haven't been seen for a long time. People selling up. I think certainly in this Vectis you had a few focus collections that came through. I think people like the privacy of it. It's completely anonymous. You don't know where this stuff is coming from. And I think that format is attractive to people. I think the fact they're timed, you know what's coming. Generally you get sort of 2 weeks plus for the catalogues to go live, so you know what's coming up. You can have a good look at it. They're getting better at the pictures and the descriptions. You've got to take it all with a little bit of a pinch of salt, but if you have a bit of an idea what you're looking at, you can do pretty well. I think they're quite safe. I think the safety in there, the platforms are pretty good, especially these three we're talking about. There's just hundreds of auction houses in the country, but these ones have got the Star Wars market pretty much cornered. And I've dealt with all of them, buying and selling, and they all seem safe. I think also like the American auction market is enormous. We've seen some real big sales and some big publicity going through there, like the likes of Hakes, Goldin, Heritage Auction, and they're all getting major headlines. That creates a buzz, so you want to be in it, and just collecting in general is pretty big, isn't it? It's just not just Star Wars. So I think it all adds to the pot, and I think they are fun. You get some bargains. Obviously, you pick up some bits that go well under the radar. I think there's recent ones. There was some really interesting prices, and it's a good test of the market. Going across that many lots, you can have an idea of what's happening. Quite a good market indicator.
You've hit all the main points there, Pete. I mean, certainly for me, I think it's since COVID, really. I mean, I know Vectis has been around, like, from a, collecting point of view on my radar since when you mentioned, back when that big Boba Fett through, and then the years leading after that with I wasn't really, I think I bought one item before COVID off of auctions, a Vectis auction. It was a TIE Fighter pilot Palator, and I remember bidding on it, and I felt like I'd overpaid for it because of the premiums that got added on top, and I didn't like that aspect of it. But certainly with COVID, when we was all stuck at home, weren't we? So what else were you gonna do? Rather than watch those 500 lots of Star Wars get sold on a Wednesday afternoon? It was it's good at the same end.
Yeah, it was the C&T one. I think was the first. Or was there something to lockdown? I remember there's various chat groups. I think certainly the three of us were in, and I think everyone was basically on that auction because everyone's at home. I think that was all that was going on. There was like a constant commentary. There was like a really amazing collection of unseen Harley toy collection, like a family. A couple had sold in there. There was loads of really nice carded figures, loads of sort of box ships, all in really nice condition. And it was just like, okay, well, I'm going to be working, but I'll spend all afternoon watching C&T.
I got a really nice Palatoy Imperial Cruiser, that Star Destroyer. Yeah, no, because I've never seen one as good, and it was there. But they're the sort of gems you can find at these auctions as well.
Yeah.
So there's definitely opportunities to see stuff that you just don't see that often with people selling these whole collections off.
Yeah.
There's like a whole world of opportunity sometimes if you're on the pulse of it and keep an eye on what's coming up.
Yeah, and I think it does take a lot of work, and obviously we've got the three we're talking about, but and Selrum we'll talk about later on as well. And if you kind of knew what you're doing, and you probably make a living out of it, couldn't you? You're kind of buying and selling, and
yeah, for sure, absolutely. Any other thoughts on that, Jez?
Yeah, I think Pete had a couple of good points there with regards to the privacy. I hadn't really considered that much before, so that's absolutely fair. I would say we've mentioned Vectis a couple of times. I know we'll come on to it, but let's say it now. Other auction houses are available. For me. Dan, you've put some stuff on, and you have, Pete. I'll put this to you now. Is it because also we're all so busy nowadays? Everything is so, we've got no time, no spare time. And as a seller, just passing all your stuff to C&T, to Oberon, to Vectis, to whoever, and letting them deal with everything. They are taking that responsibility to, once it's handed over and they've inspected it, if it gets damaged in the post, that's on them. If there are any other issues, that's on them. They don't have to go to the post office. They don't have to wrap it and pack it and do all those things, which if you sell something on Facebook, you think, got to do that now. And is it just the convenience of just shifting a lot of stuff with quite a big audience, generally a better audience than you might get yourself on Facebook or eBay? Yeah, I can absolutely see the attractiveness for sellers.
No, I agree. I mean, I've sold in the last, 6 months, probably a dozen items, and the prices I got for them, I know I could have probably done if I'd have, pieced them out myself on Facebook or Echo.
We're going to come on to this. Yeah.
It's just a matter of sometimes liquidating stuff to get the money you need to buy the next thing.
Yeah.
I think it's probably the best way to describe it. And if you've got the patience and the inclination to put it on Facebook at a price, then someone, to get no one looking at it or no one interested in it, and then dropping the price, or someone leaving a silly comment and disrupting the sale thread. It just takes all of that away. I mean, eBay's becoming something else now. So that's becoming less of an option, or less of a, there's better ways of selling. But then this is, I don't know, it feels nice to be part of an auction as well. It's definitely something, something a little bit glamorous about selling at an auction house.
Yeah, there is a bit about it. And I think I'm sort of going to, they make it easy, because obviously all a lot of the main auction houses, they're all at toy fairs, they're all represented at Echo, so you can just hand stuff over. And if you've got a tub, I've only sold modern through Vectis, so I haven't put anything high ticket, so it's all kind of just get handing over and see what happened. I remember there was one Sandown I handed over sort of 3 big tubs of modern, and it just felt so good. It was almost kind of like a buzz of it going. You get the buzz of high.
Someone else's problem now.
Yeah. Hey, it's like you say, just the risk goes. There's no, that just goes, and you sign up. The risk, you're willing to take a hit, and it goes in one go rather than spending toy fair after toy fair trying to sell it and then getting beaten down and getting actually paid less money for what you paid for it in 95. It's kind of a hard pill to swallow sometimes. It's actually quite cathartic. It's actually kind of like handing all of it over and making some space for some nice vintage toys to go in their place.
I think I'm quite late to the party though. I think my first auction win was probably 2 years ago, and then I sold something last year. So yeah, I'm quite late, whereas I think you two are far more established than I am.
Yeah, it's one of those, I don't know, I mean, how to go through kind of cycles. It's sometimes, when you look at what's on offer, it's not that appealing and you kind of don't bother with the auction. But when you see some interesting items in it, just draws you in. So you can understand why they want to, get someone to sell a vinyl Kate jar or a Palatoy 12 back. It's a draw just for people to come and watch to see how much those things go for, I think. But just seeing that amount of money coming up on the screen and someone sat there going 10,000, 11,000, you're like, Jesus Christ. It's pretty insane watching those things live, I find anyways.
Want to make sure your hands are nowhere near your keyboard as well.
Yeah, it would be nice to bid on it, even just to get outbid to say you've bid on it, but there's always the risk that you won't get outbid, so.
I also like the fact that because you don't know who the other bidders are, and then afterwards, we've had that thing, which we'll come on to. Dan, you were like, tell me you got that. Tell me you got that. Did you win? Did you win it? And then, yes, and not only are you doing it, but it's afterwards you discover possibly whether or not your friends lucked in and stuff, which is brilliant.
Do you ever place bids before, or do you always do it live? So I'll try and watch it and bid in the live auction rather than place bids, and I should do that more because normally I get cut out like with work and get called into stuff and miss pieces I want.
I have bid on items, and I think there's been a couple of times where I've been successful. I think most of the time though, the things that I've been after, if someone else wants it more, so they'll just keep bidding up until my kind of reserve bids have met, and then it will get one more bid on top of that just to outbid me and win it. Whereas if I was there, I would have probably gone another 20 quid just to make sure that I had it. It's actually got an example of that when we talk about one of the auctions later on. That happened to me on the C&T auction, but we can cover that when we get to it. We spoke a lot there about being a buyer on these things, and if people are listening to this and they've not got involved with these auctions before and they want to know how they go about it, it is quite simple. I mean, you can either go to these places in person, which depending on where you are in country, you might not be able to get there in person, but they all offer an online option. So if you go in and sign up to their website, create an account, put your card details in and all that good stuff, then you can register to bid on the auction. And they generally start around 10 o'clock in the morning on the day. And, you wait for the lots that you want to bid on to come up. Like Pete said before, the catalogues are generally available online around 2 weeks before the auction itself. So you've got plenty of time to go through the catalogues and kind of pick out the lots that you're that you're looking for. And you can generally save those as kind of favorites and go back into those and review the ones that you want to get. I mean, I always try, and I don't always do this, so I'm not going to make out as if I'm whiter than white, but kind of try and work out beforehand what's the most you're going to bid on something, because it can get a little bit frantic and you can end up overpaying for stuff, which I've definitely done in the past. But yeah, if you kind of get your prices in your head, then that's probably a good place to go. I suppose the big thing with these auctions are the premiums. So generally a good rule of thumb is that you probably pay 25%-ish, depending on the auction house, over and above your winning bid. So all of the buying fees and the VAT that gets added on top, and then probably on top of that as well, you'll pay a little bit more for postage as well, which they then usually use next day services, which are generally at a premium, and depending on the size of the item that you're buying. So if you decide to buy yourself an ATAT or something quite large, you could be looking at a hefty postage bill as well, depending on the auction house though. But we could talk about some of that when we get to them. But I mean, my tactics for it, especially if I've got multiple items that I'm after, I've got my prices in my head. You know, if I underpay for something, then I might go a little bit further with something else and just try and balance it out, which I always find a good approach. But definitely try and get a good idea of the things that you're after and how much you're willing to pay for them, and don't just go in blind and start bidding. And I think as well, Pete mentioned about the descriptions not necessarily giving you the full story. Have a real good look at the pictures and make sure you've read it properly, because you might think you're really getting a good deal on that 12 back, and then when you read the small print, it's, you know, the bubble's cracked or it's listed or it's a resale. So just make sure you read the small print before you hit the bid button.
But I think they're also quite good if you ask for more pictures. They'll put 2 or 3 pictures, like a carded figure. They'll put the front and the back. They're getting better at doing a few sort of side angles of the bubbles. But whenever I've asked
for some more photos, they always come up if you give them enough time. Try not to do it on the morning of the auction, but if you give them a few days, they'll always add some more photos.
It's a good point though, Pete. They definitely got better recently. I've noticed as well. You mentioned I hadn't thought about it too much because I just go through the pictures and move on. But you're definitely right. There's definitely more pictures than they used to be. They do try and get those angles in there of the bubble or the card and stuff like that.
Yeah, Vectis will pick it up. C&T have always been brilliant. They always have if it was a carded figure, they'd have about 8 different pictures, and you can really zoom in, and it's sometimes too much. Sometimes you're seeing it bigger. You're seeing every little imperfection. I have gone to a couple of auction houses to inspect the lots beforehand, which is obviously, if you get the opportunity, most of us don't. But if that is an opportunity, that's a good bit of advice to go and have a look at stuff.
Which one did you go to, Pete?
I went to the Aston's, you know, the big loft farm, the big house farm.
Oh, okay.
That was incredible. I remember just sort of looking at that and thinking I need to go up. There's so much amazing stuff. I've got a ton of photos from that. But it was weird. I remember they had the 30 back Death Squad Commander, and there was a Palitoy, 2 Palitoy Final Cape Jawas, and he just let me have a look at them. They weren't even in a bubble, not even in a star case. He said, can you just put these blue, maybe put protective gloves on? Can I send you some kind of acrylic, please? Just like 40 grand's worth of figures there, just flopping around in a containers. No, that was good fun to look around, but obviously not easy to get up to Newcastle or down to Kent or to Leeds. But
yeah, the only one that's nearby me is Prop Store. So Prop Store is probably about 20 minutes, half an hour from where I live, and there was a big one there in 2019. They had vintage Star Wars there. Probably they're doing posters and obviously props and things like that, but for some reason, but I couldn't, it was just work got in the way of it. They're always generally in the weekday, these auctions, aren't they? I know a group of guys went to that.
I remember that, yeah.
But it was good because I was able to go and pick up my winning lots rather than getting them posted, which I don't often get to do. So I did get to go and have a look around the back of Prop Store.
Nice. Yeah.
But no, they tend to have too many vintage auctions there, but hopefully, they might have another one sometime in the future, and I can head down there and watch one in person, because I've never actually been to an auction in person.
That one ended up on the Palitoy documentary, didn't it? I think there was in it.
Yes, you're right, it did.
I always seem to find out about auctions too late. I think that's the big thing. Advertising. That people don't necessarily want to out auctions, do they? And people don't like outing auctions on eBay. It's that whole thing immediately after something is finished on eBay. If someone got a really, really good steal, then they won't want to talk about it through fear of someone backdooring them. People don't want to talk about auctions in advance, generally. So often I would get people say, oh, did you see C&T yesterday, did you see Oberon? Did you see Vectis? And I'm like, no, what? I didn't. I wasn't aware of it. So I've often got that, I shoulda, woulda, coulda, I wish I'd known about it. And now tonight, having looked back now through the entire catalogues of the most recent Vectis, Oberon and C&T, I'm like, oh man, I missed that. Oh, I went for a steal. I need to be sharper at being aware of when the auctions are on.
Jez, how often am I been posting links for these free auctions? You've got no excuse, mate.
I know. Well, there is an excuse because there's awareness, but
I know a celebration.
I've also been quite a busy chap, and I think because there were a lot of things going on in the wings and events and various different things. I'm like, yeah. I just spinning plates. I'm that Claire in Andor. I'm just constantly, spinning plates, knives on the floor, and I should have more time in my life for Star Wars.
So we've spoken about being a buyer, Jez. Do you want to tell us about what it's like being a seller at these auctions and what it involves?
Yeah, sure. Well, my only experience has been with Oberon, and it was a very positive experience. It was indeed, because I was able to hand over it was just one item, right? So here we go. Here's an example for someone who's never done something before. So I met Nick Dykes, the owner of Oberon, and Ollie, his son, and sort of co-founder. So they were at Sandown Toy Fair. So I handed over a Power of the Force Luke X-Wing, and physically handed it over. Brilliant. He took sort of ownership of it. I said, right, this is what I'm hoping for. This is what I'm thinking about. He spoke to me about putting a reserve on it, and we can have a little chat about that later on when we review some of what's been sold. So we agreed on a reserve. So I felt reasonably comfortable about this. There is usually a set buyer's premium as well. So you've got your buyer's premium, which you've mentioned, but there's the set seller's premium as well, which you would have to consider. So when you are aware of what the seller's premium is, and I'm aware that can change from auction house to auction house, and depending on, I guess, the size of consignment, how much you're selling, how well you know them, your confidence in the system, etc., etc. So that is something which is between the auction house and the seller. And it was really, really straightforward. He just said, we're going to put it in this auction. And they kept me updated throughout. And I was able to then watch it, see it go. And then afterwards, got the sort of the information, the reverse of an invoice. He just said, right, this is what it went for. This is when you take away our fees and everything else. This is what you're left with. And I was completely content with the sort of transparent situation and the fact that it was dealt with. And I thought Nick and Ollie did a really, really good job.
Yeah, I'm the same, Jez. I've sold through, only sold through Oberon. The last couple of auctions of theirs I've had stuff in, and that's the first time I've consigned anything to an auction. And it was at both times. The first time was at Echo back in October. I'd been selling all day long. I had a really good day. I had my leftovers. Nick walked round. I said, do you fancy taking these and putting them in the auction? Put them in a box, gave me a receipt to say what he was taking off me. A few days later, following Echo, I got an email from I'm assuming it was from Ollie, basically breaking down the items that I had submitted and how much they were going to set the reserves at, what the estimates were. I had the option to revise those down. There was some penalties involved in that. If the item didn't sell, I think there was some fees involved and things like that. And if something didn't sell, I'd have to pay to get it posted back to myself. But I took the risk and modified the reserve slightly to what I was comfortable with. And then, the items went through. And, there's most of it was kind of, the low end Kenner Jedi second wave figures that, you pick them as like a prune face and a 8D8 and that wave of figures. They all sold through. Went for what I'd expect. Well, I wouldn't expect much more from them that if I did sell it. I'd have sold them at Echo, and a couple of higher end pieces that I got what I would have got at Echo had someone been willing to spend the money on them. So I was very content with what I've got. It was in the range of what I was expecting after the fees, and I was very happy with it.
Yeah. So the auction houses do well. They should do well. They get around about a quarter from the seller. They get around about a quarter from the buyer. But obviously there's so much work goes into it. Yeah. The stuff, the financial bits behind, all the website, the packaging, there must be so much to this. But for me, it was just, I've handed it over and now I don't have to worry about packaging it. Oh, it's a Power of the Force figure. Sometimes they're not brilliant in the post. I really, really don't want to sell this on Facebook. Pack it as much as I can, as best I can, but you can still have issues. And all of that is just removed from my, from my worry banks. I don't have to drive 20 minutes to the nearest post office, etc., etc. So it was just really convenient and it was really straightforward. And yeah, I would definitely do it again.
Did you have an option to put a reserve on it? I guess you do, yeah, but
yeah, I do.
Yeah, you can set the minimum on them. I mean, I think with those Jedi mocks, they put the minimum of 30 quid and I thought, no, let's do 50. It was just, it's your own. I think I think Nick will obviously look at it and say what he thinks, what the range is, and then you kind of, what the kind of minimum bid is. And they might start a little bit earlier, but I think we see it in auctions. If you watch them live, they'll start and go, right, 50 quid. If no one bids, then they'll drop back to 40. And no one bids again, they'll drop back to 30. But whatever that range is you give them, the auctioneer won't be able to go below that price.
No.
So
you can see that for a few of the auction houses that we'll look at tonight. There's quite a lot of unsold.
Yeah.
They would have had no, I don't want to go below this. And we are now seeing that more and more where you may be finding that people who bought some stuff maybe in 2022, 2023, and now trying to flog some stuff on, and they aren't achieving the same prices in some areas. And I say, no, I don't want to sell below that. And the auction owners aren't selling them below that. So yeah, quite a lot.
No, we're seeing more items. Yeah, more so than ever before. I think that's vintage Star Wars auction, like you say, 5 years ago, there wouldn't be anything unsold. It would all just gone.
Yeah. It definitely feels like the prices are falling. I mean, a lot of my stuff I bought, 10 years ago, certainly in my mint on card. So when I look at what I'm selling them for versus what I bought them for, I'm, making a massive profit on them. But in terms of what they, some people might have bought them for 2 or 3 years ago or 4 years ago at the height of COVID, they probably would have paid a damn sight more than that. But, everything started, it definitely feels like prices have fallen back slightly on certain items. I'll caveat it with that. So yeah, very good. Anything else on selling at auctions, Pete? I know you sold quite a bit. Any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you've got to be, obviously you can put the reserve in, but I think some of you just got to take a risk. I think I've never set reserves on the modern, and sometimes I've done well, sometimes I've done really poorly, but I think you just you got to know you want it gone. You want to par with it. So that's a risk worth weighing up before you hand it over. And yeah, and they're good to talk to. All of these guys will talk to you and talk it through and give you advice. They're all pretty friendly. They're all in it to make a little bit of money out of it. So they're going to talk to you.
And just to get a little bit morbid, maybe. I mean, I think, there's two routes. One is you fall out of love with collecting and you want to liquidate your collection. I don't know. You want to go and travel the world or whatever. It is a good route just to get rid of everything all at once. We've talked about selling the odd item here and there, but if you did want just out, it's obviously the quickest route out if you don't want to go through the pain of selling everything. But then obviously as well, if you have an untimely demise from this world, it's, your friend and family won't know what to do with your stuff. Instructions to send it all to an auction house is probably the easiest way to go for them, right?
Yeah, I imagine, unless you've got anyone who's going to take it on, but that's not a great proposal for anyone, is it? Like you say, it's probably the quickest and cleanest way to just move on.
Today, Palitoy Star Wars toys, which were bought for pocket money in the 70s and 80s, have a unique value in the Star Wars collecting world.
So in the auction room, we've got Neil, our auctioneer, taking bids from people in the room. We've got phone bidders, we've got internet bidders. Literally, this is a worldwide procedure. And yeah, it's a 2-day bonanza of toys. Palitoys are massively popular. I think there's a Palitoy tax referred to just because there's so fewer items made by Palitoy compared to Kenner. There's a definite slant towards people of a certain age who were young at the time the films came out, and I think it's a little bit of a chance to go back to their childhood and just capture a little bit of the fun that they had when they were 12 years old playing little Jedi battles. But it's the collecting mentality has really taken off in kind of the past decade, And this is something that's very manageable to display and to have in your house. Everyone can see it, they know exactly what it is, and it's just something really heartwarming to see people get so passionate about it.
Should we start talking about the auctions themselves then? Do you want to start us off, Pete, with the Oberon auction?
Yeah, so Oberon, we sort of touched on a few times, obviously set up by Nick Dykes, who we all have known for a long time as a toy dealer in previous life at Vectis, with his son Ollie, who I think we've all met. He was out in Chicago with us, but yeah, he seems a nice fella, and he's obviously kind of come in with the family business, founded only in early 24. So considering they're just over a year old, they seem to sort of make quite a mark. They're doing well. They seem to have quite a few auctions, seem to get quite a few lots. Everything they have on display at Toy Fair seems to be pretty nice. They've supplied some very tempting items. So the auction was on the 23rd of April, so a little bit before the May the 4th chaos. So I guess you would have known everyone else was going to jump in, so he thought we'd get in there first. Around on the 23rd of April. Buyer's premium was 20%, but you had an extra 25% if you did it through the sale room, which we'll also talk about a little bit later on. Yeah, this was strictly Star Wars. There were 445 lots in total, 148 vintage and 204 modern. Quite a mix of everything. Lots of loose figures. Quite a few sort of just loose, they sort of range from beaters up to some graded bits. You had some nice box ships, nice last 17 loose. So yeah, everything seemed to go for quite reasonable sums. I think there was a few highlights, a few bargains to be had. There was a R2 pop-up, which went for £260, which seems incredibly cheap, even with the sort of a cooling market. That still seems really, yeah. So these are hammer prices. I think we're going to do hammer prices.
Yeah, let's stick with hammer prices. And then I think in people's heads, if they just add 25% onto that price, they won't be a million miles off the mark of what it actually costs the buyer.
The 260, that seemed pretty good. I'm sure Nick would be a legit saber. I don't think Nick's going to put anything tried and tested through his auction. So that seemed very good. There was a nice Luke 20-back reseal that went for £100. Even if you just sort of, it's a reseal, but even if you separate the parts of that as a really nice card back and a really nice Luke Farm Boy figure, you probably get more than £100. So the reseal wasn't great, but I guess if you sort of tidied it up on display, that seemed to go for, seemed pretty cheap. There was a vinyl cage Jawa. And for 420, had a tear in the arm, but if you want to, as a placeholder, that's a very nice sort of amount to get on that ladder. There was a complete Palitoy Falcon that went for £120. It had all the sort of bagged up, had the training ball and everything there, and had the Palitoy book, which I thought was pretty reasonable. That training ball, we used to go for sort of half of that in the height of the market in the unit. There was a mixed bag that went for sort of £35. It had a Clyro soap, a 3PO Clyro soap, a Sigma Wicket, and there was a Darth Vader Agmas Toys costume with a sort of a mask, which sold for £35. You wanted to start off a Beyond the Toys collection, you were sort of well in there. Probably after fees you'd be paying less than £50 for that, which was very nice. More of the high-end stuff. There was a nice Palitoy Darth Vader 12-back. It had a catalogue sticker on it, but it went for £1,300. It's invaded 12-backs going for double that in the past. And then I think the highest priced item in the whole lot was something I'm sure Jez would like to add to his collection, was a Palitoy 30-back Luke X-Wing which sold for £2,000, which is just gorgeous. That's a very nice looking card back, and you've got the big sort of the 30-back Palitoy logo on there. So
it's a great example, isn't it? It looks really clean in the photographs.
Yeah, and that's just such a stunning card back in with the ESP gate. So they went for £2,000. That was the top of the auction. One thing I noticed as well, going through this one and all the other auctions, is how many battered Rebel transports are there? I think we all about 3 or 4. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah, and people, when they go though, they sell. I was listening to the Vectis one. I had it actually on my headphones while I was cutting the grass. I was so keen not to miss the auctions I was going to bid on. And he was dropping the price of this Rebel transport. I thought, it's not going to sell. It's not going to sell. And then literally, it's the bid, it started flying in. But he dropped down to £30, then went back up to 50 or 60 quid. Yeah. I thought that one was going to get missed. Yeah. It's good what it's meant on.
Good stuff. Focus. So yeah, but going back to that Luke that 30 back, Jez, where are they at? Is that outside?
No, that Luke X-Wing 30 back was an absolute steal. And to me, that's a really, really good indication of the market. Now, rewind in a few years, 30 back X-Wing, you were probably looking at £10,000, genuine, closer to £10,000. I know that there was lots of discussion about this because there's hardly any out there, and the closer you get to, the original Star Wars stuff, the pre-30s on 30 backs, these things just fetch a penny. They really, really do. And I know of people in the past when I was a Focus collector saying, one might be coming up for sale, but probably looking in the vicinity of around about 10k or so, maybe a little bit under. So I noted this one, and it's just, wow. Someone's got a great deal, and maybe the person who's let that one go was disappointed with that. You don't know, do you? You roll you guys and you see how it goes. That might have been someone who's had that for years and years and years and has still turned a bit of a profit. But from my point of view, £2,000 for that, an absolute steal. Really was.
Very nice. Anything else that jumps out in anyone? I've got a couple, but I don't know if there's you've got anything. Go on, mate. You might. Hopefully you picked out the one that I've picked. I'm hoping someone's going to pick this one. But let's see.
Well, quite possibly. I mean, there were lots there. The unused poster set, the Kenner poster set, anything.
You got it. So that's the plaints. So that Craig was a big fan of them, and he was still looking for a Palatoy one of those until we recorded I think it was in the first episode of the Palatoy Guide when he was kind of giving us an overview of all the toy stuff, and he spoke about the plate set. So I did think of him when I saw that come up.
Yeah. So that was lovely. I was I looked at the fact that a 77 back punched and it also had a tiny circular punch next to it as well, which might have affected the value slightly. So a tiny circular punch next to the normal punch. Luke X-Wing for £80. And when I was collecting Luke X-Wings, you never got a Luke X-Wing below £100. I know when you add fees on and stuff, you're looking at around about 100, but I would have just expected Luke X-Wings to have gone for more. But there was a nice mix there. It wasn't just about, I know you've mentioned Cairo stuff, but it wasn't just about the carded figures and the loose figures. There was the tins, which I know you used to collect, Dan, and the Empire Strikes Back tins.
They were my tins.
Oh, were they?
Yes.
Which brings me on to two other things, which I think these are probably Dan's, because I sent you a message saying, ooh, that Takara Darth Vader.
Yeah, that was
a 6-inch Takara. I was looking at that thinking, oh, that's nice. That could go in my collection. That could. And I would have, bearing in mind that sold for £60, which meant that you would have got, I don't know, maybe like 45 or so. I don't know. Yeah. It's like, I would have bought that I would have bought that off for 50. So that was very nice. But what I will say is I think this is a great auction house. I really, really like the website. I thought the website is really, really easy to use. It's quite straightforward. It's just clean and new. But Palatoy X-Wing and a Rebel Transport, both boxed for £30 each, and a really, really nice, complete Scout Walker boxed with insert and instructions for £45. There's some really good stuff there. There's some Factors jewelry for £60. It was just, not a nice, good, balanced mix. But that 30 back Luke, whew, nice. Yeah.
I had a couple of other bits. I mean, one of them was kind of just a reference later on. One of them was, the first one I was, Kenner, Empire Strikes Back, 41 back, Luke Besbin. Now, I sold one of these recently because I upgraded to a Palatoy one, but the one on here, it went for £204, which I thought was a steal. And it was, offerless, real nice condition. And the other one I just wanted to pick up was the Dianoga. There was a loose Dianoga, and that went for £70. So, I had fees onto that obviously, but £70 for that. But I'm only referencing that because we're going to talk about the Dianoga again later on, and we can compare the prices of the two Dianogas. I thought it was quite interesting.
Done exactly that as well. Because yes, Mate, because that is a very interesting tale, isn't it? Yeah. We'll come on to that when we talk about the C&T auction.
We've got Vintage Droids R2-D2 pop-up lightsaber again. I've got 360, 380 in the room at 380 bid at 380, 400 internet. On the internet, 420 in the room at £420 bid at 420, 440 internet, 460 in the room, 480 on the sale room. Internet bidder at 480, 5 if you like. At £480 bid at 480. What do you reckon, gentlemen? I'll give you a chance to think about it. Yeah, we've got all the time in the world, no problem at all. At 480. What do you reckon? Half of the people are saying, oh, it's worth that. The other half are saying, no, it isn't. At £480 bid on the internet, fill it up to 500. Fair warning then. Absolutely sure, shaking your head in the sale room at £480. Selling away then at 480. Sold on the sale room at £480. Lot 444. Let's have a look. Droids again. It's the C3PO figure. And I've got 280 bid on the internet at 280. 300 in the room. At £300 bid now at 300. 320 fresh bidder. 340. 360. 380. No, at 380. 400 is that bid on the internet at 400. Thanks for your bids anyway, sir. Sorry you're missing out on this one at 400 bid. Right on Oberon live there at £400 in Devizes, Wiltshire. And I'm selling away against you both in the sale room at 400. Sold away at £400. Oberon live.
Yeah, well, Vectis have been around for ages. So we've spoken about, the new kid on the block, but Vectis have been around, I don't know, fellas. I think the first time I became aware of Vectis was probably around about 2013 or so. So yeah, very much established. I would say one of the main names in the UK, or even wider than that. And they had their very special May the 6th. In fact, it was called Revenge of the 6th Star Wars auction. Now, when I talk about what they had 606 lots. But when you add vintage into the search bar, you get 228. So it was 228 dedicated vintage Star Wars and a whole sort of gambit of stuff. But we've spoken about this already with regards to buyer's premium and everything else. So they're working on 22.5% plus VAT on that. Clearly not VAT on the hammer price of the things itself. So in brackets, they're saying around about 27%. If you buy on the invaluable system, so online bid in via invaluable, you'll be charged a total premium of 32% on the hammer price, inclusive of VAT. And then there's also buyer's premium for live bidding via the sale room will be charged 32.94% on the hammer price. So yeah, just creeping up to a third, aren't you? Which really makes me question, and this is, as I've already declared myself, the newbie when it comes to this. Why would you want to bid via the sale room and invaluable rather than on their own website? Can we just cover that now before we go into the auction? Because
I think for me, with the good thing, we're going to obviously talk about sale room in detail, hopefully towards the end. But for me, sometimes it's just the impulse. You're on sale room, you're searching for something, the auction comes up, and it's an obscure auction house you maybe never heard of before. I know some of them only deal through sale room, so you can only bid through sale room. They haven't got their own online platform, and sometimes it's just being lazy. But to be honest with you, I don't know if you're a full star, Pete, but that's kind of why you would bid through sale room.
Yeah, certainly the obscurity, the ones that are a bit kind of out of the way you've never heard of, and they've got something that is you really want to go for. I think you'd maybe go for the sale room to give yourself a little bit more protection. I assume there is more protection. And like you say, some don't actually have their own online bidding set up, so you have to do it that way. I think for Vectis C&T, I've bid online multiple times on them, and it's been fine. I haven't bid online at Oberon, but I assume I'm hearing all good things. So I think those three, the main ones you'd certainly avoid sale room and just go direct, set yourself up an account. Also, if you have an account, you can look at realized prices, which is absolutely incredible for sort of looking at archive sales and just history and just going through, and the search engines are pretty good, so you can go back and just see what stuff went for. And like I say, Vectis history is 15 to 20 years old, so really good sort of wealth of history and just items you can just go back and you can cry at what 30 backs were going for in 2010, basically.
Yeah. So 228 lots of vintage. So the biggest one we're going to talk about tonight, loads of stuff in there. Quite clearly, a couple of focus collectors moving some things on as well, because amongst the 228 items, lots of attack commanders, mint on card attack commanders, attack drivers, Gamorrean guards, TIE fighter pilots, plenty of helix and letrosets and all sorts of stuff like that. But there were a lot of mint on card of the same figure, but just variations. And actually almost from a tactical point of view, if we were doing our own auction house, I'm not sure if the way in which they release some of these is right. I've seen it on auctions. When there's big auctions like this, you've got almost an identical boxed attack, Kenner boxed attack at the beginning of the auction will reach a completely different price, maybe to at the end of the auction, even though they are both fairly identical. You know, there's no special variations, because I think some people can't spend their entire time on it. You know, it might be towards the end of the day you get more people, as maybe some people sort of clock off work early and they're able to jump on Vectis. Or maybe some people can do it in their lunchtime. Or maybe some people might be able to bunk off work for an hour in the morning. So you see different prices on items which have been staggered. But to me, it gets quite dull when you're watching an auction house. It's just, here you go. Oh, here's a carded attack commander. Here's another carded attack commander. And I don't think actually then that they would necessarily reach, I mean, I'm not a specialist, but from my point of view, I think if you've got a limited amount of people online at that time looking at that, they probably want a little bit more variety. So I would probably be considering spreading them out a little bit more. But it's just,
I do wonder though, Jez, and maybe it's a question we should ask, someone that works at these places, but whether or not they can do that, because I know whenever I've sold multiple items in auction, they're always my items are grouped together. So I'll get like 5 or 6 lots and they'll all be one after the other.
Yeah.
So I do wonder if there's something in that. And if someone's gone in, like you say, with a focus collection of our commander and they've got 15 of them, whether or not they got to, I don't know if it was a technical issue that means that they've got to be grouped.
Yeah.
Or what. But yeah, I know what you mean. If they had like just spread it all out and mixed it all up, it would have probably got a bit more traction, some of them. I
mean, I'm sure someone could argue it to the contrary, saying, well, no, we deliberately do that. So if there is a focus collector who's looking at getting, then they can concentrate on just being on the line for that 5 minutes. But yeah, horses for courses and everything. There was loads there. There was absolutely loads. There was some, loose went really well. The loose figures in general have gone almost all at or above their estimate. I think the loose figures are still, very, very popular. There's some, nice Sigma bits. What I'm going to do is, because I've gone through it and I've sort of noted about 30 which have taken my interest. Let me throw it back to you guys first of all to see what you thought of Vectis. And then I'll sort of, I'll go for sloppy seconds / thirds.
I think standout bits for me, there were 2 really nice 45A Palitoys. There was Death Squad, Star Destroyer Commander. Card wasn't great, but it was really nice, and that's a rare figure. And there's also a Stormtrooper on the same back, which really pinged. It looked really nice, really vibrant, and then went for 900 quid. I think the Star Destroyer Commander went for 320, which seems pretty good for that card bike. I know it's a rare card bike as you get. It's like to say some sort of early figures. So they were nice. Yeah, sticking on the Palitoys, you could have had a full 45 back attack commander run. I think there was all 3 of those, which were nice. There was a nice Kenner, talking about that, there was a nice Kenner Kanigher, boxed complete one in an acrylic case, which was pretty nice. There's also a really nice hot Stormtrooper. It was a 30 back, which had been graded, but the case it was an 85, a UKG 85, and the case had cracked or broken, whatever. So you got the carded figure and you got the original grading sticker, but it wasn't in the case anymore. But that went for $620. It was graded at an 85, and they were going for double that, weren't they? And that was like in really nice condition. So that stuck out.
I'll run through some of mine then. So I thought that there was a nice lot of Sigma going through there. I think everyone has a chuckle at the C3PO tape dispenser. I would have probably pulled the trigger, but it went for 300 quid, and I don't like it. 300 quid's worth.
Is that expensive for those? Did anyone check him?
I don't know. I thought it was Stu stuff. I thought he was selling them up, but I messaged Jim and said, "Are you selling all your Sigma?" He's like, "No, it's not me." But yeah, I don't know what the going rate is for one of those. You don't see them come up that often anymore. But yeah, I thought that was nice to see some of that going through. And like you said, Pete, some of the Palatoy stuff, there was a, Palatoy Star Wars Luke Skywalker 30 back, the 30A with a walk-in Luke. I think it was an 85. There's only a 75. 1400 quid seemed a lot for that, I'll be honest. I've got them in my head at around 1,000, certainly at a 75 grade.
Yeah, that's gone through a couple of times as well, I think. I think they've tried, I think it went through as unsold in a pre-order.
Yeah, it seemed pretty steep, that one. And that Stormtrooper as well, that was an absolute beautiful. They went for 900. I would have been interested in that, but I couldn't stretch to that. I thought of the ATAC commanders, there was the PPD one. I thought that 65 that looked really nice with the power face figure. I thought that was great. It went for 300. There was 2 pages of a New Hope script. I think anything like this, anything that comes signed at an auction, I do question it when people sell signed posters and autographs and stuff, but this one seems to have a lot of provenance with it. But yeah, it was 2 original pages from a shooting script, which I thought were really nice. They went for 280 quid. There was a bunch of Helix stuff. So there was an R2-D2, the orange pencil case, a scrapbook, some pencil toppers and pencils, and a few other bits and pieces. Went for 240 quid. I thought that was quite a lot for that, to be fair. One of those pencil cases, I picked one of those up last year and actually sold it to Grant. It just seems really steep price paying. Well, 240 plus the premiums on that little lot seemed quite expensive. And then obviously there was all of the Palatoy paperwork that went through for the X-Wing drawings. I think the reserves on those were really high on some of them, and not many of them sold at all. I think some of the lower end ones that they were selling for like 60 quid. I did jump in on one of them just to say that I had one. I'm interested to get it in hand and see what that looks like. But what they appeared to be was the company that did the work for Palatoy. I think they're called Hardwick. So they did a lot of the tooling for Palatoy, and it's all of the tooling drawings that they did. So the specs and I suppose they're almost like blueprints with lots of other handwritten notes on and stuff like that. So they're quite interesting pieces, but they are in pretty rough shape. You know, the edges are everything's browned and the corners have got a bit crusty, and yeah, they're not in the best condition. A lot of those were had reserves on of like 280 upwards, and they just weren't selling. A handful have sold, the lower end ones, yeah, a bunch of them went unsold, so it'll be interesting to see what happens to them next.
You think they'd go more? Because they wouldn't have probably put them all in, if they put them all in one auction, you would have thought that would not be the greatest of moves. They should have. I don't know, 10, I know it might take a year to sell them through, but if they'd put 10 in, you think they would have done a hell of a lot better. The amount they put in, it seemed to be pages and pages of them, and they were hard to look at online, weren't they?
Yeah.
They're detailed and so big, when you're trying to look at it as a sort of thumbnail, you kind of think, well,
I do wonder, Pete, because I know that Brian Hickey was down at Vectis. They were, looking at a few stuff, and they borrowed photos and had some guys from Palatoy with them. And if you read the descriptions on these lots, it does mention that they've been verified by members of Palatoy staff and blah, blah, blah. So I'm wondering if any of these are going to feature in the book. If Brian photographed any of them, might give more of an explanation of what they are and where they came from. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see. There's some other Palatoy paperwork as well, like the invoices and stuff to go with this stuff, like with the Palatoy logo on. They seem to go through a lot more. They were going, from anything from £100 to £200. So that Palatoy logo still carries a massive premium.
They were nice. I guess it's got to be difficult for the auction houses to manage expectations as well, isn't it? Because you can have all the sellers turning up saying, oh yeah, I want to do this, I want to do that. And the auction houses have got to try to satisfy them, but also satisfy the customers and everywhere else. So I wonder how those conversations go when people rock up with stuff like this. And you can just imagine the sort of backroom people in Vectis going, oh, I don't know, what do you think? But, you know, the customer is polite, I guess.
Yeah, I remember the last Sandown, they had one of the, I think it was probably the key one of the X-Wing, and they had it all pinned up, and I didn't even know it was coming down. I just sort of walked in and saw it. I was like, wow, that's amazing. And when you first see it, you think, is it one of them? It's like 10 grand pieces, isn't it? Then there's something that was loads of them, and then there's suddenly sort of 50 odd, you see it just suddenly loses it. So I guess 5 key pieces with some really nice sort of the key bits of the ship, and then once it starts dwindling down a little bit, and as you say, the condition, they'd all be folded and just they're perforated in there across the fold. So
yeah, the one I got it looked in pretty nice shape, and I do wonder if once people start getting in these hands, if you see them in person like you did, Pete, whether people will go, whoa, hold on a minute, these are quite nice, and will they, I don't know, I'm not, not that I'm looking to turn a profit on it. I'm happy just to have one and maybe frame it and do something with it if it's good enough. If it's as good as I hope it is.
Yeah.
And he's going to be like proof cards, and all of a sudden people are, oh God, we've got to get one of these. And it becomes, so maybe not. I paid 60 quid for mine plus a premium, and it is what it is. I'm just interested to get one in hand.
Yeah, but if you get it sort of nicely framed and is it sort of linen back maybe and protected, you have restoration going on, it could look lovely.
Yeah, so the one I got was I think it's the engine pods. So it's I think it's both the top and the bottom. So it's the engine design. So the drawings of those.
Yeah.
Like I said, can't really see it too well in the images, but yeah.
If you know what you're looking at, and if you're a collector and you even if you know that toy line, it's so iconic and so recognizable, it's quite cool. It's that.
Yeah. Yeah, so they were good. And, I did buy a few bits as well. So that won't get all my purchases, but I did get a Dengar Palatoy baggie to go with a mailer. So I had one already. It was open. So I got a nice upgrade on that. And I think I got it pretty cheap as well. It was 180 quid. I was willing to go a lot more than that. And I was kind of bidding, and I got up to £100 and it stopped. And I thought, I'm not going to get this for £100 of mine. And then someone chipped in a couple more bids, and it went up to 180, but I still think that's a good price for that, which is an incredibly rare baggie. So I was over the moon to get it for that price. And that was my big purchase in the day.
Nice. Well, congrats, mate. Because there were some really good things to be had there. I'm interested on what you think about estimates, and I'd like to sort of open that up for discussion in a minute, because when I look at this, I'm like, wow, that was well out of the estimate, and sometimes the estimates are bob on. And you think, yeah, they've done that well. Then some of the other estimates are like well off and above and below. And sometimes you just think, oh, have they gone low to entice people, to sort of make people think, oh, they don't know what they're talking about there. Or, oh, I'm going to get a bargain or what have you. Again, there's got to be some tactics, hasn't there, behind this. They had a really, really great post-Oscars Chanchal poster. And that was 300 to 500, hammered at 480s. Don Post latex, Gamorrean Guard mask and box, 70 quid. Brilliant. I just thought that looks awesome. And for £70, brilliant. They had some nice Beyond the Toys stuff. There was one Beyond the Toys, a whole load of, bits and pieces, stationery, jewelry, masks, cups, badges, pin badges, you name it. Multiple licensees all over the place. 60 to 80 pounds went for 280, but they had some lovely stuff. I could talk to you guys for ages about the lovely things that they had. Here you go. Here's one. Lot 254 and 255, boxed, albeit tatty, AT-ATs, Palatoy and Kenner respectively, the latter with a couple of loose figures, both at £80. And later, another Kenner boxed one went for 170. But yeah, some really nice things. And as you said, if you can get there, or if you know someone who lives near these auction houses or can, figure out some sort of pickup, There's absolute bargains to be had. The final two I'm going to say, and I thought these were great. Clipper Squid Head and a Clipper Starburst sticker Rancor Keeper. The Squid Head, £90, mint on card with a Clipper sticker, £90, and a Starburst Clipper sticker on a Rancor Keeper for £80. I would have absolutely added both those to my collection.
And
some really good stuff.
Do you think we suffered from the amount going through? You've got these 3 big auctions and whatever else is going through. So you've got nearly 1,500 lots going through, and you've got a slightly, a market that's slowing. So that's a lot of options. And if you've got people sitting through all of it, and not everyone's going to be able to sit through all of it. So there's going to be a lot of stuff going under the radar. And it's like when you look back, and it's such a difference, isn't it, with the price realized, because you think, oh, I should have bought that. Or when you're in it, because obviously that's where it ended. But if you were in it, you'd have to be going up again. And
you'd have put another £10 on it. I mean, there is tactics, isn't there, to vote? I mean, some people wait till the bids to exhaust and then dive in at the end and demoralise the person that thought they won it, so they fail on it. Or do you go in strong from the start? I always tend to go in strong from the start because I just like hitting that bid button and just seeing where it ends up. But there's definitely tactics to it, isn't there? I definitely agree with you, Pete. It's a lot of stuff going through in a short amount of time. And because I think the Monday was the bank holiday, I took the Tuesday off as well. So I had a day off work basically and been away on holiday and got back. I hadn't had a chance to do much around the house. So like I say, I was cutting the grass and cleaning the kitchen and just had it on in the background. So I was able to pretty much watch the whole thing, or as far as I wanted to go in terms of catching the auctions that I needed to bid on. I'd have loved to have done it, for the following day, but got to go and earn a living, haven't you? So you've always got that freedom. But it is odd that they always do these on weekdays. I do wonder if they did these auctions on a Saturday or a Sunday, if they get, a lot more of an audience, because people wouldn't be working.
Yeah, or even I suppose an evening wouldn't work for anyone who's actually working there, but they always are weekdays, aren't they? And working from home is fine. You can get involved, but it's still, if you're going to watch it, it's still going to take sort of 5 or 6 hours out of you.
Yeah. Unless if you've got the lot number, you can, generally they do about 100 lots an hour, these auctions tend to get through, so you can get a rough feel for when your lot's going to come up. Yeah, but then you don't want to, you do keep checking back to make sure that everything's fed up. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've lost quite a few bits by being sort of called by my boss and asked to come
do some work.
You said that Luke Bespin had gone through a few times and finally sold, because they had the estimate 1,800 to 2,200.
Has it got a crack in the bottom of by the stem? Is it slightly not cracked, but is it coming away from the card? Is that one?
I'd have to go back and check.
Okay.
But there were a couple others which went unsold. So they had a 12A UKG 85 Sand People, which they had estimated 1,600 to 2,000. That went unsold. And the Luke Gunner, or Luke Farmboy, on the Gunner card, Trilogo, 800 to 1,000 was unsold. So they had 3 sort of big cards, 3 big hitters from their point of view. But yeah, some really great stuff there. Really, really good. But I do question the tactics on some of the estimates, but I'm sure that's obviously intentional, isn't it? To make people go, oh, yeah, that's good.
A little bit, yeah. I think, is it a legal requirement they have to do that? They have to put some kind of estimate in. I remember this sort of used to come up quite a lot, but I think it is one of those things, isn't it? I think if you know what you're looking at, yes, all right.
I suppose it's, someone's opinion, isn't it, at the end of the day? And I think there's obviously a bit of, the old start it low, watch it go mentality, to get people in. Oh, I might get a bargain here for 60 quid with these. I can sell them for 220 if I piece them out. And, you just to get people's attention.
Yeah.
That's is a tactic. Yeah. Yeah. But then, it goes the other way as well. We saw that with those Palatoy, with that paperwork. There was obviously, I don't know whether that was the seller demanding that they go for that much or that was what they were advised, but some stuff, it's just hard to gauge, isn't it? You don't know how people are going to react who's watching it. We're going to get people from America steaming in and throwing loads of money at these things. I suppose I just don't know.
It must be difficult. They had a whole mixed bag loss of Gam guards plus POC figures. see some ATAC drivers, ATAC commanders, some POC, and also looked like some bootlegs as well. Whole mixture. That's baggies, sorted bootlegs. Plus also there was a Robin Hood, I think the Friar Tuck, which
I saw that, yeah.
Guard, not included in the description, but they had that estimated at 100 to 120. Clearly a bit of a demand for this from at least two parties, because instead of 100 to 120, went for 500. So, that's a nice little surprise to whoever was thinking about selling that. Never know, do you? You just never know.
That's the fun of it, mate. That's the fun of the fair.
Yeah, the buzz.
Welcome to Vectis, one of the world's largest toy auctioneers.
It's like playing in adult form.
Got him. Where some of the foremost experts in the toy world assess treasured collections before they go under the hammer.
Is that supposed to be Sean Connery? Oh, it doesn't look like it.
Discover one-of-a-kind collectibles.
Beautiful, it's a rare piece.
Sought by passionate enthusiasts.
£1,500.
To rekindle childhood memories.
Gosh, it's my absolute dream to own this piece.
Once you're bitten, that's it, you've got it for life.
A new original series.
Gold away!
Scouting for toys.
Shall we move on to the final auction and have a look at C&T?
Sure.
So the third auction we're covering this evening is the C&T auction. They're based down in Ashford in Kent, and their auction was the very next day after the Vectis one on Wednesday, the 7th of May. And yeah, they had a whole lot of Star Wars stuff once again. So that auction, 420 lots, and the vintage represented, I think, as a good proportion of actually, I think about 390 odd lots of that. 396 lots. Yeah, and again, a real mixed bag of stuff, real variety, lots of loose graded, some really nice loose graded stuff as well. But again, you could pick up some bargains on that. I think for me, the standout items were, I want to start off with the Dianoga, Jez. Had another a loose Dianoga at C&T, ungraded. It was estimated between 50 and 70. And it sold for 160.
Yeah.
We mentioned the one at Oberon that went for, I think we said 70, and this one at C&T went for 170. Is there some crazy variant of the Dianoga we're not aware of, or is it?
I think that was the anomaly. It really was, because, I remember seeing them for 40 quid or so at Farthest From a few years ago. Now I've seen them at that price pretty much, which Oberon was doing, maybe a little bit more, but when you then factor in seller's fees, buyer's fees, makes sense. That one, yeah, I just didn't understand that.
Crazy. And I suppose that's the dice you roll, isn't it? One will go for 70, one goes for 170. If you look at the one at 170 and benchmark yours at that and put it on and it goes for 70, you just can't be disappointed. It's the luck of the draw. I mean, whoever sold it is rubbing their hands together, aren't they? Yeah, that was good. And some of the loose vintage, a couple of ones just worth mentioning, I thought that didn't sell. There was a UKG 85% Manamad that was estimated between 260 and 300, which doesn't seem beyond the realms of possibility. That went unsold. And a last 17 Yak Face, again, 85, estimated between 300 and 400, and that didn't sell either. So is that a tell in the market in the direction things are going? Because that in previous life would have flown.
Yeah.
So
they just going back and sort of sticking to last 17, wasn't graded, but we had the R2 pop-up Oberon that went for 260. There was an R2 pop-up loose figure here that went for 280. So they were sort of 750 plus at one stage. Even looked two in a couple of weeks at 260 and 280, which is the lightsaber was going for that, wasn't it? At one stage.
Yeah. The ones that did sell, there was an 85 Luke Stormtrooper that went for 460, which seems on the money for me.
Yeah.
It was a little bit odd, the ones that were selling and some that weren't, but that one did have the kind of the solid black Power of Force blaster with it. So it wasn't like a lot of them go with the blue black blasters now, don't they? Because that was the Palatoy variation, but I think this one did have the black one. So I'm not surprised that went for good money. Another one that went for big money was the Tri-Logo Fett, though. That went for $3,500. That had an estimate of £300 to £400 by the way.
That's it. I was noted that. What on earth's going on there?
So yeah, it's a beautiful car back there. I would like to get my hands on one of them, but yeah, not for $3.5 grand, but yeah, plus fees. But yeah, very nice. We were talking earlier, Jez, and you mentioned an Emperor's Royal Guard. There was a Palatoy Emperor's Royal Guard. Looks in real good shape. Looks nice. Can't tell if the bubbles particularly is a little bit dented by the looks of it, but 60 quid. 60 quid. I reckon that's a bargain.
Yeah.
And that is great on a Palatoy card. It really is, because you get to see the whole costume and everything. Yeah, great.
Yeah, glorious. There was a 2-pack in there, but it was a resale, so they're hard to judge whether you're getting value for money or not on these. And that went for £100. But if you wanted to just get a 2-pack, get that card back in your collection. If you wanted an example, it's not a bad one to have. It's not the greatest figures, Medine and Rees.
But Medine and Rees, and if you're doing a resale.
And you'll think, well, exactly. It's pro cape of the centi, I suppose. Yeah, overall, that one's quite nice.
I was really studying that one afterwards, because it said something like possible resale or things resale. And I was really zooming in and having a little look, because they're not the best constructed carded figures anyway. As you know, the bubbles are poor. The card back on those 2-packs is non-existent. So they're just cheap, aren't they? They're just like, right, let's just package these things together. Half of them don't even have weapons. And I was just thinking, was that a resale? I'm sure it was. Or was it just a very, very poor seal because of the poor sort of general quality of those things?
But you've got a trim pack. Well, you did have one. Sure, that's fun.
I've had a couple, and I remember trying to sell one for 120 quid, which was, I think, a Han and a Medine possibly. And I just couldn't sell it for 110 or 120 quid. So I then put it on the forum, the Star Wars Forum UK thing, saying, right, I want 11 people to buy a £10 sort of ticket, and I'll do it right. Yes. And someone won it for £10, and I sold it. And cool, that must have been about 10 years ago now. And then I had a Luke X-Wing one, and I sold that on to Luke Wilkinson because he didn't have it in his collection, his vast collection of 2-packs. So I am looking out for one. I am. And I nearly got one at Star Wars Celebration, but it was just overpriced. So, yeah.
You can't really see them at show. You very see them.
No, you don't.
I have a couple that I've picked out. So there was a Palatoy 41 back 21B that went for 180. I don't think it was too badly priced. The card back's not in the best condition, but I think old Dave Treat should have had a crack at that if he didn't. Because I know that was one of the first figures he remembers getting, and he's desperate to get his hands on that. There was a Princess Leia Kenner 12 back graded, went for, it was a 20 back, sorry. That went for 1,500. That looked really nice. That was not too badly priced. And in terms of the kind of the odds and ends, there was a Droids and Ewoks part of the trade dealer catalogue, which I thought was quite interesting, like a ring binder with individual pages in the ring binder. That went for 85 quid. Some nice box vehicles. There was a nice, really nice Scout Walker box Palatoy with the first picture on it in the snow. That went for 220, but that had literally everything with it, and all of the kind of the bits and pieces were still bagged, had the stickers unapplied and all of the inserts. That was really nice. And same again with a snow speeder. They had the laser rifle carry case from Kenner. That one of those went for 90 quid. That was like the kind of box that it comes in. I thought that was pretty well priced.
Same.
And you mentioned there before, Jez, the Darth Vader's playset. So they had one of this that was complete, that had the insert and all the paperwork that came with it, and that went for 460 quid. I thought that was a crazy price for that to me, but horses for courses, I suppose. And then there was and this might lead you on, Jess, to your recent buy. There was a box Palatoy Death Star in there that went for 560 quid. What do you reckon to that?
Yeah. So they also had a complete, but not put together. It was sort of 2/3 put together with some bits randomly on the floor. They had a Palatoy Death Star unboxed, which went for 260. So yeah, box one, 500. The loose one, which was 260, was in a really, really dark yellow, really, really dehydrated canopy. And, yeah.
I could keep going, but there's one more. It was the vintage, Star Wars 3-position laser rifle, Palatoy. Lovely condition. I've not seen one as in nice condition that for a while. That went for 680 quid. I thought that was really nice though.
There's a lot of blaster pistols as well. There's about 4 or 5 of those that went through.
Yeah, I think if they had an Empire Strikes Back one, because I haven't got an Empire hand blaster, I would have definitely had a go at one of them, but they were all Jedi ones from Derry.
Just other things I saw, there was a really nice boxed Dennis Fisher Vader doll, in really nice, the box was really nice condition and the doll was immaculate. It looked like it hadn't even been sort of taken off the card. You couldn't quite see, but it looked like it was completely unused in really nice condition. And yeah, back to the box ships, there was 2 unused Slave 1s that went for one for 280, one for 340, which,
pretty good price.
Yeah. So the Palatoy boxes always seem to have a little bit of an issue. I guess even how they were opened. They weren't it wasn't a flush cardboard. They were more of a kind of a flat that went in. They always seem to have a few issues, but 280 and 340 seems pretty good for those unstuck and unapplied stickers and all parts there. And it's pretty good. And there was what was the other than that? There was a Han Solo large head 20 back, 85 graded 85 that went for £1,000, which seemed pretty cheap as well. Card 85, double 85, figure 90. So that's...
Yeah, the piece that I bid on that I missed out on, it was a sealed Kenner Yoda puppet in a really nice box. I stuck 200 on it. I said I couldn't watch the auction live, and I think someone bit me by 20 quid. They put an extra bid in on top of my 200 and got it off. Which I'm a little bit relieved about after the money I'd spent at Vectis the day before, but yeah, it would have been nice to get it.
Yeah, lots of nice stuff. It's amazing in hindsight, isn't it? How much you go back and think, oh, I would have had that.
Yeah, definitely.
Any highlights for you, Jez?
Yeah, 100%. I'm like looking at this Takara R2-D2, the wind-up R2-D2. Now, shout out, I said in the celebration thing that I learned a lot from the Takara, the die cast, the spoons did, the panel spoons and Jason did. And I think they were calling it the Noku, I think, or something like that. So, sorry if anyone's got their head in their hands now, but I'm sure from memory in that presentation, the spoons kept on referring to it as the Noku, something like that. The Takara wind-up R2, which I've always seen go for around about £200, often not with a full set of stickers. There's a set on the front, one on the rear. They had one here, a little bit worn, a little bit of sort of chrome fading, and the winder, a little bit of rust on the winder, but still complete, absolutely good enough for my collection. £110. And for me, if I had seen one like that in Japan, 100% I would have bought that for 110 plus fees. I think anything less than £200 for one of those all in is great. So I think that was a real bargain. What else? I thought there were some relatively cheap Minhag cards all around. £110 for a Hoth Luke. It's not that often you see Return of the Jedi Hoth Luke for close to £100. So that was really good. But all in all, yeah, the blasters, loads of blasters, but another great auction. But is it too much at once?
I've done, if you think back we went to Echo, when we go to Echo in April, how much of that did you walk round and look at the vintage and go, oh, that's really nice, and then look at the price and go, oof, walk away. And I do think there's, now the market's settling, softening, however you want to describe it, I think quite often, I mean, certainly for me, where I've been collecting, certainly collecting boxed and carded stuff now for over 10 years, and the prices I paid back then, when I do sell stuff, if I'm not reaching the heady heights of, what things were going for 2 or 3 years ago, I'm not feeling a sting of that. Whereas I imagine a lot of people, if they were buying stuff in the peak of the market, they don't want to let it go for less than what they've sold it for. So I think the auctions are a good opportunity to get stuff cheap, but I suppose it's the lottery, isn't it? Whether and that Dengar baggy for me is the prime example of that. I've been looking at those for years. I've been outbid, I don't know how many times on a deal or no deal, or, someone's, got in before me, and it's been going for like, you know, just the baggy on its own for, you know, £300-400 sometimes. And the one that I've got, the open baggy one, I paid not much off what I've paid for the seal one now. Will I get my money back when I sell the one off that I've upgrading from? Probably not, but in the grand scheme of things, I feel like it's balanced itself out. So I think you've just kind of got to, I don't know, psychologically trick yourself into thinking you're getting a deal sometimes. And yeah, sometimes take the hit if you're having to sell it and lose a little bit. But in the grand scheme of things, as long as you're happy with what you've got in your collection, then.
Yeah. I've been equating things nowadays to the cost of a pint in my local is now £7, £7.50 for a pint, right? Yeah. So if you think, oh yeah, there's 15 quid too much, or there's 30 quid too much, it's just a round of beers, isn't it? You know, if you just say, oh, I would pay by 30 quid, that's just like me going to Father's From and just buying like a round of beers on top of, you know, the normal round or what have you, you know.
Yeah.
I would justify it that way if I needed to.
Do you know what I think's really nice as well though, Jez, is that all those Jedi carded figures that back when I got into it, it was super cheap. I mean, I was buying, I think there was a thread that used to be on SWF UK about mint on cards for less than 20 or less than 50 quid or something like that, wasn't it? I forget the name of the guy that people were there throwing stuff up. And when I'd finished my Empire run, I thought, oh yeah, I'll get the Jedi cards. And I was buying the cheap Kenner stuff that was, you know, brown bubbles. It wasn't all in great shape, but I got most of them for less than 25 quid over the course of probably 2 years, around 2014 to 2015, 2016. And when you look at what the prices then went up to for some of those carded figures, when they were, you couldn't buy a Jedi carded figure for less than £100, even like Weequay, you'd struggle to find one for less. It is nice to see now that there are, I suppose, entry level figures for people now if they do want to start mint on card collecting. You know, if you know, there's a lot of, you know, people that collect loose that go, oh, mint on card, that's crazy, it's too expensive for me. But maybe when they start seeing some of these prices, they might go, actually, yeah, I do fancy a reuse for 50, 60 quid. You know, so I think it's definitely balancing out. I know the high end's always going to be high end, but that lower end stuff definitely feels like it's getting back down to a level there where people can jump into mint on card collecting.
Yeah, it's probably market correcting rather than softening in some of these like on some of those figures, because what it also does is show you. I know we know there's a lot of it out there, but when you sort of think how much of these sort of quite run of the mill carded figures there are going through, there's a lot out there, and it's just digging through for condition, isn't it? The rarer pieces and the condition, trying to find the nicest stuff. That's what's old, I think. But that's a good point about the prices dropping, and it makes it achievable for other people with the smaller budgets to come on board and get involved with the sort of carded and box stuff.
Lot 183 now. Okay, here we go. This is the rare vintage Star Wars UK graded 18 Jawa with the vinyl cape on the 1988 Star Wars Palitoy 12-back B card. As I'm sure you're all very aware, this is an extremely rare Star Wars figure. And we are straight in at £20,000, and I'm looking for 20,500. £20,000 has been bid, looking for 20,500. 21,000 still here, looking for 21,500. 21,000 looking for 21,500. Bid still here with us at 21,000, looking at 21,500. 21,500, 22,000 with me here, looking for 22,500. 22,500, 23,000 here, looking for 23,500. 24,000 here, looking for 24,500. 24,800 here, looking for a bit of 25,000. 24,800 here, looking for a bit of 25,000. 25,000 we have now, looking for 25,500. £25,000 is bid, looking for 25,500. This is an extremely rare figure, ladies and gentlemen. Probably will not get many chances to acquire one of these again. We're at C&T live bidder at 25,000, and I'm looking for 25,500. You're thinking about it, sale room? With 25,000, looking for 25,500. I'm going once at 25,000. I'm going twice at 25,000. This is your third and your final chance at £25,000. All done. We sell it. Sold at £25,000. Congratulations, buyer 9965.
As well as the auction houses we discussed, there are dozens of auction houses across the UK, and a good way of keeping track of what Star Wars items are going under the hammer is the sale room. Pete, do you want to give us an overview of the website and how it works?
Yeah, so the sale room was owned by a company called ATG Auction, which is Auction Tech Group, which I didn't know that. So reading off the about us on their website, the sale room is Europe's leading marketplace for fine art and antiques auctions. Visitors to the site can search and browse catalogues and place bids over the internet in real time, with the audio and video feeds communicating the auction room atmosphere. And we touched on this once before, and I think I thought a lot of people knew about this, but I think it's still quite a hidden secret. So you can go onto the website, which is saleroom.com. It's obviously linked to many auctions throughout the land. You search Star Wars, and you'll get normally about 8 or 9 pages, so like hundreds of items coming up. Best way to sort it is by date, because obviously you get auctions that are happening literally as you're searching, and you can obviously get auctions that are happening sort of 3 weeks down the road. A few stats for them. They are linked to 3,900 auction houses. They're involved in 88,000 auctions in 2024, 7 million lots across 170 countries. So basically all the auction houses, like all the ones we talked about, are all linked to them. And look up stuff and you'll get every auction house, and you'll be amazed how many auction houses there actually are in the country and throughout Europe, just getting lots. And it's a great place to go and look for stuff, because you get house finds, house clearances, people who just have no interest in this, but no, there's an auction house around the corner, just dump stuff in there that all ends up on the sale room, and you can bid online on there, which you get the extra charges. Well worth a browse if it's to Star Wars, or you can put anything in there, all sorts like comics and everything. In Mark and Craig find their Letraset artwork.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking of while you were sitting there talking. That's how, I think.
That was, if you ever want a reason to go on there and have a look, then that is it. So they found that, and what an incredible find that was. So I imagine there is tons of stuff that goes under the radar on there. So yeah, well worth the browse, certainly for Star Wars. But any collectibles you're into?
I got my 45 back Han Hoth 45A with the Bounty Hunter offer on. I got that on some random auction on a Saturday morning. Thought there was no way that it was going to go under the radar. And when I spoke to John Ames about it afterwards, I was amazed at how much that's actually worth and what I paid for it. So there's definitely it's definitely a great resource. And it does need, I've got saved searches on there, and I get an email every day, and it's quite scary. And you could spend all day, every day, just looking at the options like you do with Vectis, and, sit there watching this stuff all day long and bidding on stuff. But it can look a bit scary financially and quickly become a bit of a problem. It is great. And you mentioned there about, like Europe and stuff, but I have seen US auctions on there as well. I haven't seen the big auction houses like, Hakes or anything like that on there, but I have seen like prop store, when they've had prop store sales in Los Angeles, those lots often show up on there, but you can filter by country. So if you just want to keep it to the UK, you can set that in your filter. Like you say, sort it by auction date. So the most recent auctions are at the top. And just keep an eye on it. But it's constant. I get an email every day about, 100 new Star Wars lots that, I do keep up with it from time to time, but yeah.
I check in once a week, and there's tons of stuff going through, but a good resource, and, you get lucky ever so often. But that Letraset artwork, if there's ever an advert, you sure go and check out Sale Room. That is it, isn't it?
Definitely.
But just whilst you guys have been talking, I've been having a little look, because I'm like, right, I actually got a spare couple of minutes of my life, and I was listening intently to what Peter was saying, and I was following his instructions to the letter. Lo and behold, I had to check the date because I'm like, right, by the time this is out, will this auction have finished? It's a Takara wind-up R2-D2 that I was only talking about 5 minutes ago. Right? So I'm now frantically trying to
when does it end?
Back on. So it ends on the 15th. Perfect.
Okay.
So
I went up there, Eddie, by then, Jez, you're all right, go for it.
So I'm trying to log, because you can view it, but then you need to log in to, to save them, to add, or to declare an interest.
Yes. But you can, depending on the auction house, you can go on, there's normally a link at the bottom to the actual auction house that it's for, and you can get onto their website and then sign up directly with them. So you won't get stung with a 30% fees, and you might only pay the 25%, assuming it's as they've got their own online platform.
Indeed. So this one, when I've looked at it, and it says, auctioneer's estimate, additional fees apply, 25% including VAT sales tax. So that means that auction house is going to be cheaper than 25%. Otherwise they wouldn't have it on there, I guess. So, yeah. So it's, walk-in action is tested and fully working. Wow, very nice.
Okay. That's a good description for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm just, okay. So slightly distracted with this. The Strange Space Collection Part 2, Treasures of the Inner Sanctum. What's this auction house called? Sorry, just to go massively. It's the Ancient Mariner Auctions. You guys heard of them before?
No.
It is true there. There's some there's a few random ones. Stacey seems to come up quite
Yeah. Is it the Bristol toy? There's one down in Bristol. There's another auction house I bought stuff from in Chippenham, Jez. And there's another one around by Chesington. I've actually gone and picked stuff up from there before, but there just seems to be an endless stream of auction houses that are selling Star Wars.
That's quite exciting. Well, it leads me on to the fact that I think it was, let's have a little look at this. It was the 21st of March at 11:14. I get a message from Dan. This might go under the radar, going under the hammer this afternoon from, you got it on the sales room, but it's Wessex Auction Rooms. So I'm going to click on this link now and see Star Wars original boxed Star Wars Death Star playset, complete with no instructions, and Tatty box. Complete with no instructions. It's kind of a contradiction in terms, isn't it, really? Because it means it's not complete. But anyway, all there, apart from the instructions, and a Tatty box. And I think it was on with an estimate or starting at 400. And I was like, looking at that, but again, thinking quarters. So 400 equals 500. And I was still thinking that's a bit more than I wanted to spend. And, no one bought it at 500. So he lowered it, and he lowered it a little bit more. So it started at 400. He went down to 340. No one went for it. So I put a bid on, and that was it. The only bid. And it was going, and then someone got in there right at the last second, 360. I then put in 380 and won it for 380 plus fees. So Dan, I thank you ever so much for that. 380. Ended up getting myself an acrylic case for the box. And it's wonderful. And I didn't realize how much I appreciated it, how much I loved it until I had it in hand, until that was mine. And I could look at the wonder, the wonderful artwork, the imagination, the engineering of that Palatoy Death Star, with the shoe, with the trash compactor, with the weapons on the top. It's just brilliant. It really, really is great. And it's only, I think, when you have one like that and you get up and close to it that you really just have that buzz, and that's what I got on that occasion. So I was really, really pleased with that purchase, and thanks for pointing that one out to me. Fortunately, I was able to go and collect it. So just off the M4. So I don't know, it was about 45 minutes away from me. And I just thought, it's just definitely worth the drive. And nice auction house. Wessex Auctions.
Very nice. Everything lined up.
Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah, it was.
You put it together, Jez? You put it all together and had a play over it?
They gave it to me. still together. Yeah. And I was really surprised with how substantial that is, solid, with how sturdy it is. And, no, it's great. I'm really, really pleased with it. So.
Do you know what that means, Jez?
Mm.
It means all four of us, including Stu, have got a Palatoy Death Star now.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on any other auctions? Anything else anyone wanted to raise? And we'll wrap it up.
We should maybe do the US auctions at some stage. There's some heavy hitters over there, but that's another.
Yeah, I think definitely we should get into some of that because there's, was it Goldings on Netflix now with his TV show? That's garnered a lot of attention, especially that Boba Fett that went for over $1 million. And
yeah, it's crazy. It's quite a cheesy show, but it's addictive television if you're a collector. It's quite good.
Yeah.
Fun.
Well, it was left on the cliffhanger as that, so it'll be interesting to see how much of it they cover when they come back we're assuming they're going to come back with a third series of that.
Yeah, it's a good show. It's a good watch.
Do you know what we're talking about, Jez?
No.
You watch Goldings? So there's a TV show on Netflix called, what's it called?
King of Collectibles.
King of Collectibles, that's it, The Golden Touch. Go and watch it, it's really good.
It is good fun.
And we'll maybe talk about it on a future episode of Old Fossils. Maybe we can come back and do auctions again at some point. I'm sure there'll be a round of them before the end of the year.
Only 3 J-slot versions are known to exist, making this rocket-firing Boba Fett J-slot prototype mailer an interstellar find.
Up until 2017, these weren't even known to exist.
I can't believe I'm seeing this right now.
Because of safety issues with the firing mechanism, they actually scrapped the item. So this actually never made it out into the public. But what ended up happening is the engineer actually ended up saving 3 of these items.
I see here this is an 85 near mint.
This is actually an 85 plus.
So this is the best copy out of the 3?
Yes.
You know some prior sales in this? There can't be many, obviously. I mean,
a J-slot AFA 50 sold for $236,000. I mean, that versus this is, you're not even comparing the two.
I couldn't imagine the headlines this would bring. It's so newsworthy. Star Wars is so popular, maybe more than it's ever been. So I would love to discuss this with you and get this to Golden. Are you ready to let this roll?
For the right amount of price, I am.
Okay, so obviously, how the auction world starts. I mean, things start lower. We want to create that competition, and it goes from there. So when you say at the right price,
I mean, I'm talking about we need to start a reserve of $500,000.
500.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm torn. On the one hand, he thinks he is the greatest item, and overconfident people usually have unrealistic expectations and they're hard to work with. On the other hand, Star Wars items are so hot right now. Something like this would put Golden on the map for Star Wars and toys in general.
So yeah, that is it for another episode of Generation Skywalker. If you've enjoyed this show, why not follow us on Facebook or Instagram? Just search Generation Skywalker to find us. And we've got our We Are Generation Skywalker Facebook page as well, where you can chat to other hosts and listeners. And we post polls. We've been posting up polls about Andor recently and getting people's opinion on season 2, which has all been positive, amazingly. Give some of the reactions to some of the episodes we've had over the years. It's been a resounding thumbs up for Andor so far. But if you want to get involved in that, sign up for that page. And why not listen to some of our back catalogues? We've been releasing quite a few shows recently. So we've got 2 new episodes of the Palatoy Guide. We've got the Andor season 1 retrospective with Barry Gingell, where Jez has led us through a real deep dive of that series. And we've got, new episodes of The Modern Way. Plenty more to come. Oh, and our Revenge of the Sith commentary that dropped on May the 4th. So that's out there now as well. And, imagining it will still be May by the time this show comes out. So why not, celebrate the 20th anniversary of that movie and give that a listen. And, over on Instagram, we're running the Wouldn't You Kenobi It fact of the day. So you can learn even more about the movie there. But for this show, it is good night from Jez.
See you next time.
It's good night from P.
Good night. Cheers, guys.
No silly comments from Stu, and it's good night from me. We are Generation Skywalker, all eras, all passions, all Star Wars.